Okay, let's start. So, I changed things up a little bit for week 7. So we'll talk about this. I had sketches here, but then I kind of realized, in intro I have you guys do sketches. So
are those due today?
Well, that's what we're going to kind of talk about.
Okay.
So,
Totally forgot about this.
Instead of doing sketches, I'm doing something a little different this quarter, and I think this will work out a little bit better. Your sketch is basically going to be creating a skeleton layout of your website. Okay, so, and to me, it's like that will be your sketch. Now, if you want to sketch things out by hand or whatever to base your stuff off of, that's totally fine. But what I mean by a skeleton layout is something like this, where instead of sketching this out and drawing it out, you're actually going to create this with the code. So you figure out what your layout's going to be, and then you'll have a div here for the banner, you'll have a div here for the nav bar. If this was your layout, right? Then you'd have
sketch to make that. Like we can make a sketch for our layout.
Well, these aren't going to be sketches. These are going to be actually what you built.
Right, but we can sketch that out first.
Yes, definitely, okay. Definitely. But you can sketch it out first, but you won't need to turn that sketch in. Gotcha. But you will need to turn in this little skeleton layout thing that you create. So here's another couple other examples. So now I don't want one. Well, you are. The one you turn in needs to be responsive. So in this case, you can see what it looks like on a PC, what it looks like on a tablet, and then what it looks like on the mobile page. And so you're going to need to do something similar to this, and then here's another one. So the point is you're setting up the layout, you're just not putting in the content yet. So you'll have, hold up. All right, so you'll have all the divs set up, you'll have them all positioned where you want, but you won't really have any content in there. You can put in filler text if you want, like lorem ipsum, if you've heard of that. Like, there's a lot of lorem ipsum generators where you can kind of just come out there and have it generate like fake text for you. You can come over, I want 5 paragraphs of that, and you hit generate, and then boom, there you go. Then you can copy and paste that in there. But the point is you're getting the layout created and solidified and done, but you don't really have the content in there yet, and that's fine. So that's what I mean by this like skeleton layout. So the good thing here is it's forcing you to get the layout created, but it's also good because it's forcing you to start, right? It's forcing you to get everything created and done before you start throwing in the content. Okay, so that's the thing that we're going to go over today is how to do CSS grids. They are like relatively new. It came out, these CSS grids came out, I think, kind of the end of last year. So, I mean, I think they've only been out for maybe 6-7 months or so. So maybe the middle of last year. But they are, relatively speaking, compared to other technologies, it's very new. And it's really cool, really powerful. It's a really awesome way to do layouts with websites. So I'm going to go over that, and obviously you need to pay really close attention, make sure that you understand it enough to where you can make your own layout. Because I don't want, all of your sites looking like mine. So I gave you this site as well. They throw in like just 10 different layouts that they think are pretty solid. And this is the one we're going to be doing today. It's really simple. Just like logo over here, nav bar over here, big image gallery or something here, and then a couple of content boxes. But I think, you can go through these and start getting an idea of how you want to do your layout, what you're going to do for your skeleton grid. Okay. Here, logo, nav bar, big, huge thing, and then the different sections. But, like we talked about, if you want to sketch those out beforehand, I actually would probably recommend that you do that just so you get an idea of what you want it to look like. But the thing I like about this page is it shows kind of an example, the little skeleton layout that we're talking about, and then it shows actual websites out in the wild that actually use this layout. Okay, so logo, nav bar, stuff up here, and then there you go, logo, navigation, big thing here, and then 4 other things. So if you've noticed, they're all pretty symmetrical. In other words, they're all balanced. That's what makes a website look good, is just everything balances off each other. Nothing takes up too much space. Like this big, huge area is balanced or offset by these 4 little areas and such. So that's really what you want to look for, symmetrical type layouts that just, they're balanced. Okay, they don't look weird and everything has its place. Anyways, then you got like one with a kind of a fixed navigation where this is always there. You have your nav bar here, and as you scroll up and down, this doesn't move. But anyways, take a look at that. That can give you some good ideas on maybe what you want to do with your layout. Another thing I'd recommend is maybe getting out there and just Googling good web design. Just see what's out there. And then maybe you'll find a layout that you like, or maybe you'll find a layout that you kind of want to emulate. You don't want to completely copy, but at least will get you a good starting point. And as you're sketching and as you're doing your skeleton layouts, these are, you got to think of this and you got to think of that. We're kind of skipping over the tablet view, but you need to know, okay, what is it going to look like in a normal PC window, and then what is it going to look like as on the mobile view. Okay, and I would recommend that you kind of sketch both these out. But your skeleton layout needs to do this. Your skeleton layout needs to have this laid out, and when I shrink down the browser page, it needs to convert into the mobile. Okay. Now I kind of want that one skeleton grid to be due next time, but really, like, you should be getting this done ASAP and then getting into the project, because we missed that day on, a few weeks ago. We're kind of far behind. We should have been doing this last week, so we're kind of a week behind. So really, you only have like 4 weeks to do this, which for some of you may be okay. Others of you, just manage your time, get moving. All right, so we're gonna hop into week 8. And I think we already talked about this, but we'll just review it real quick. So the final project, complete functional website, 3 responsive pages. In other words, 3 pages that go from mobile view and PC view. So you're kind of in a way making 6. You're going to be using CSS Grids. We're going over that today. Layout, all the styling needs to be external style sheets. Of course, all the pages need to link to each other. Copyright laws, follow them. Navigation scheme needs to be solid, easily used. The navigation needs to have some sort of rollover animation effect, so when I roll over your buttons, something's happening. What that is, that's up to you. It doesn't have to be animation, but just if you just want to have it change the color, that's totally cool. But we also are going to cover this today, Google Analytics. I need to show you how to do that. It's actually pretty dang easy, but it's really powerful. Okay, and then also if you want your mobile view to work how it should, you got to have this meta tag in there. Okay, this is the viewport meta tag. We'll talk about that when we get there. And then, of course, this isn't a hard requirement, but, the site probably should be the home page of your domain. So when I type in your domain and nothing else, it should come up. Somebody said something?
The index?
Yeah, yep. Okay, and that's all you got to do is you put your index file inside your public HTML, and you need to name it index.html, and that's how you do it. And then, of course, it needs to have favicon. Now, this video I'm probably going to get rid of and replace it with the one I'm recording right now. Because this shows you how to do a responsive site, but of course it only shows you how to do it one way, and I think what we're going to do today is a lot better than what he had here. Okay. So any questions on the final before we hop into all this stuff? Or what's required, or what's required?
Can I use the base of my last one, but then edit it? So how would I turn in this project if I'm using my old website as a base, but changing it a lot?
You would take your existing website and you would have to. What do you mean, change out the layout?
I'm changing the layout quite a bit, but I'm using the existing website as base.
That's fine. Just create your skeleton in the new layout.
Okay.
And then if you want to throw in the stuff that already exists and put it in its right place and all that kind of stuff, yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Alrighty. So Google Analytics, let's hop into that first. So google.com/analytics. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what it is and what it does, and then I'll show you how to use it. This is another one of the many ways that Google is overtaking the world. This is incredible service that they offer here. It kind of blows my mind, to be honest. So I'm going to hop into my AI account. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of traffic here, but I have been tracking a site. But I think the site's kind of dying off. So think of Google Analytics as like Big Brother for websites. You can put this on your website, and what Google Analytics does is it goes out to the people who go to your website, gathers all kind of information on them. It gathers their location. If they're logged into a Google account, it would log their gender. It would log browsing habits. It would log like what pages they go to and for how long. It captures how they got to your site. So did they find it through Google, or did they find it through Bing, or did they just type in the address and go directly to your site? So you can see how people are finding you. What the crap is Avast doing? It does bounce rates. I mean, yeah, we'll take a look at all this stuff here. They change out the layout all the time. So I can go to real time. And if you can't log in right now, don't worry about it. Just kind of, I'll walk you through a little bit, and then I'll show you what we need to do to get what we need to get. But real time is like just what it sounds like. It's telling me how many people are on the site actually right now. Now, the site that I'm tracking is a site I created to train all the professors here to use Brightspace. Well, Brightspace has been here for a couple quarters now, so now that site probably really isn't being used that much anymore. So right now, there's nobody on the site. Woo! Right? But if you have a site that has a lot of traffic, you can see at any moment how many people are using it. You can check out their locations, where they are, where they're located when they're using it, and their traffic sources, a bunch of other stuff. But I'm going to hop over to audience, I think is what I wanted. So I can go to overview. Yep. So under audience, I go to overview. And this will tell me how many users, how many sessions. Sessions are basically like when they connect to the site and interact with it. So you can kind of consider it hits. So number of sessions per user, 1 session, right? 6 page views, 3 pages per session. Okay, so if I had someone come to my site, go to a bunch of pages, and then leave, that'd be 1 session, but they accessed a bunch of pages during that session. The average session duration, 2 minutes and 11 seconds. The bounce rate is 50%. So bounce rate is basically if they go to your site and then they just bounce. They're off. They're gone. If your bounce rate is high, that means the welcome page or the home page of your site sucks. And that means they're getting to it and they're like, this isn't what I wanted, and then they just leave. So this is not a lot of data to work with because the site hasn't really been used. But my bounce rate is 50%. In other words, the one person went and just took off, and the other person went and actually stayed. So 50% of those 2 users, right? One person stayed, the other one just hit the site and then took off. Okay, language, like, yeah, if they're, I guess, I'm not really 100% sure where they're getting language from. Maybe they're logged in or just maybe location. But it'll tell me the country. Okay, so both of these hits were from the United States. I can click on the United States. Okay, both of them were in Texas. I can go in even further. One was in Pflugerville and one was in Round Rock. So you can actually dial in the location of the exact city of where they were. And so, yeah, if I click on city, it'll tell me, okay, one was in Pflugerville, the other one was in Round Rock. I can see what browser they were using. So both of them were using Chrome. I can see what operating system they were on, Windows. Service provider, I can actually see their ISP, Internet Service Provider, if they're using Spectrum, if they're using AT&T, Comcast, all that fun stuff. Not set means it just couldn't tell for whatever reason. And then the other one, it looks like they probably accessed it here on campus. If they accessed it on a mobile device, it would tell me if it was iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, whatever. Same thing, service provider would tell me their internet provider. And this is a big one too, screen resolution. What are we doing right now? We're building a website that hopefully works on mobile devices. So if you build a site and tons of people are accessing it on 1280 by 720, well, you better make sure your site looks dang good on 1280 by 720. Now, these portfolio sites that you're making that maybe doesn't have a lot of traffic, okay, fine. But if you get hired by a company that, you know, gets like a ton of hits per month and such, well, this kind of stuff's really important to know, so you can kind of wrap your design around these things to make sure that it works the way it should. So, and I can go back so I could see like a bigger segment here. So I could go, you know, from December 17th, 2017 to today. Now I can start seeing a little bit more data. So 17 users, 31 sessions, 52 page views. And now I can start getting a little bit more information on stuff like this. Go back a little bit more because I do want to show you something that's kind of interesting, I think.
Can you get a snapshot on any website?
Any website that you control and you've installed this on. Now, I'm sure there's websites out there that you could put in a, well, maybe, I don't know, I've never looked that up. This, I can only do all this on here because I've installed the code on this page, on these pages to track all this. There may be websites out there that display analytics for other websites. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, but I haven't looked it up. But anyways, this is kind of interesting. So I had a couple hits from Brazil, a couple hits from Russia. We can take a look at these. So state of Sao Paulo. Now this is usually what I'm expecting on these type of hits. Average session duration, 0 seconds. This tells me these are bots. These are just computer or programs that are scouring the web, probably looking to spam people or capture emails so they can send them spam emails and stuff. I mean, just probably nefarious stuff. Or maybe they're just out there to just, I don't know, they're searching for something. So these hits from Brazil were junk hits, basically. And I bet you the ones from Russia were too, because I don't know what anyone in Russia, why they'd be going to this site. Samara Oblast, whatever that is. Oh, well, look at that. Interesting. Average session. Now, I don't know what this tells me, to be honest. That's kind of weird.
Men in black suits are going to
yeah.
open the door any minute,
right? I don't know. I have no idea why someone from Russia would be on the site for 7 minutes and 50 seconds. And I still don't know if this was a real person. But I know that it happened. So who knows? Because it is interesting. The average session is around 2 minutes, where this was 7. So I don't know. No idea. Let's see. So acquisition, I haven't really looked in here this much. Okay, yeah, this is what I was talking about a few minutes ago. So 47 of those hits, 47 users out of, I guess, the 52 went directly to the website. And then 4 out of those was a referral. In other words, they went from another source. And I guess maybe an email. I'm trying to think where else that site would have been. Probably an email, because I know they sent it out to people and said, hey, take a look if you want. And then other, no idea. Oh, from JS mining statistics. Okay, weird. Let's check out the referral. Cheap, trusted backlinks, SEO jokes. Oh, that must have been, all right, complaint. I wonder if that was the Russia hit, because it was 750. Complaint, Copyright Institute. Uh-oh. Maybe they're going to attack me for copyright stuff. No idea. Anyways, behavior. I haven't really looked into behavior. Oh, this shows like what pages. So you can go into here and this will tell you what pages are the most popular. So you'll get an idea of what pages most people are getting to. And if you have a page that's really important that your users should see, but you're going in here and you're looking at this and people are never really going to it, then, well, maybe you need to think about your design and how you can easily how you can more easily get them there. But now I can see, you know, what people are watching the videos on the most and such. Okay, so again, it's been a while. I always stumble through this a little bit. I swear, every time I go into this, it's just different. Okay, so we need to create a new, when you guys get in there, okay, so go to Google Analytics, log in, and make sure you have a Google account.
Why can't I just hit like a sign in button? It brings down like a drop down menu.
What do you mean?
When you go to Google Analytics, just at the main page.
Yeah, you should be able to hit sign in, upper right.
What would it bring you to when you click that?
Sign in page. Well, clips that and then click on analytics.
Okay.
There's all that other stuff, which we don't really care about. We just care about analytics. I guess this is other stuff that they have that I haven't really played around with. And then once that opens in a new tab, then you it should kind of redirect you to where you need to be.
Oh, I know the problem. I think I've already signed up with this in a different account. What's the time zone for Texas?
Central.
Should we check all of the data sharing settings?
Yeah, I wish I could see what you guys see. There we
Google
go.
Products and services, benchmarking, technical support, account specialists. Should we keep those checked?
Yeah. There it is. Okay. But I don't know if it's going to be the same for you guys. There it is. Okay, cool. So for me, someone that's already done it, I have to go to admin here. And that my account, I'm not going to change the account, but I do want to add a property. So I'm going to create a new property. And now this should be kind of where you guys are at. Are you guys this far or no? Where it's asking for like a website name and the URL and all that kind of stuff?
I already did that.
Okay. So I'm going to call it test website because I'm just going to end up deleting this. The website URL is going to be www.surethoseonekids.com/blah. Okay. Industry. I don't know. You pick it. Well, for us, maybe arts and entertainment or business and industrial markets, hobbies and leisure could be jobs and education maybe. I don't know. It's up to you. It's whatever. I don't know if this is really going to, do anything to your site. This is more, I think, for Google, to be honest, to get an idea, but I don't know. Well, it may help with SEO too, with Google knows what kind of stuff is going on here with your analytics. I don't know. So I'm just going to say that I'm going to do the hobbies and leisure one. Well, actually, let's see what it says here. Okay, so it has to do with what the type of reports they give you. Yeah, it doesn't affect tracking and data collection. It just affects the type of reports and things that Google's going to give you. Okay, so reporting time zone, we are central. Okay, and so I'll say get tracking ID. And I swear, man, the way that you put in the tracking ID changes, I swear, monthly, but here it is. Now, if you were to do like WordPress and you have a Google Analytics plugin, what a lot of those plugins will do is say, hey, just give me the UA number, and that's it. This is your specific individual UA tracking ID, which will, for WordPress and other things that use Google Analytic plugins, usually all you got to do is just throw that number in there. But you actually have control over the code, so you're going to take this. And you're going to copy that. All right, so now I'm going to come into brackets here and we'll start creating the new page. I'm going to cheat. So if we take a look at it, it'll say, this is the global site tag, tracking code for this property. Okay, copy and paste this code as the first item into the head of every web page you want to track. So the first item in the web page, or in the head tag. So I'm going to come up here, throw that in. Gosh, and tab it over. I don't care about the comments here, so I'm going to get rid of the comment tag.
It goes in the head?
Yep, it's the first thing in the head tag is what it tells us to do. So the first tag in the head tag is going to be the script. And you need to do this on every page you want to track. So every page you create needs to have this Google code in it. Okay, then I'm going to create a new folder, just kind of like how I've done a million times before. And save it in there. I'm going to call this CSS Grids. You're probably going to want this to be called, I don't know, the name of your final project.
So would I just call it index then?
Yeah, if it's going to be your home page, yep. Okay, and then we get the beautiful coloring. Okay, and you will see a couple other things that I have in my code. So I have the Google tracking code in the script tag here. Got my meta tag, which we've done a million times, but you need to have this viewport tag in there as well. This is what will make your site work on mobile views.
Like, where did that come from?
It just was there.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And I'm going to show you why this is important while you're doing your thing. So if you don't use the viewport tag, this is what happens. So I like W3 Schools has a great example. So it'll try to load your page as like a normal web page, and this is what it would look like in a mobile browser. So it tries to load it like a normal page. It's zoomed way out, but when you throw on that viewport meta tag, it takes everything, zooms it up, makes it right up in your face, and it doesn't have a lot of empty white space like it does here. So, I mean, it's very, very obvious when you don't use this.
And how does that relate to what we did last week with the resizing?
All it does is just, it doesn't have anything to do with responsiveness. It just has to do with how it's displayed on a mobile device. So the media tags or the media queries and stuff have nothing to do with this.
Okay.
This is just saying, hey, treat this page as a viewport, and the content is going to be, the width of the content is going to be equal to the device's width. So whatever device you're on, the width of the content is going to be the same. And the initial scale is like a zoom value. So this
Does
is...
that mean I don't have to create two different views, one for mobile, one for desktop? Does this do it automatically?
It does not. That would be amazing.
Okay.
That would be absolutely incredible if that's all you had to do.
So what does this do? Can you just do... I don't...
The best way I can explain it is just this. If this was my phone and I didn't have that viewport meta tag on there, it would treat it like a kind of like a computer website.
Even if we have it in the HTML to resize, last week,
everything would be zoomed way out, and you wouldn't be able to really read the text or anything. Yeah, even if you had the media queries in there and everything, it would just zoom it out really far.
So this makes that work better.
Yep. And I mean, if you're still wondering, I mean, well, no, just once you have it almost done, pull it up on your phone, take out that meta tag, and you'll see. It blows up the whole thing and it makes it look really bad. Yeah, that's one of those that it's tough to explain. It's one of those things where like you just got to see it. And like I said, and it only shows up when it's on a phone. So you would never know if this was there if you're viewing it on a computer. But the minute you take that out and then pull your site up on a phone, it just explodes.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to go over the analytics stuff. I mean, you really don't need to know what it's doing. Just it's using your UA number, passing it along to Google, validates that you are who you say you are, and then it starts taking the data. This usually takes not too long. Once you get it up on your site, it starts analyzing things pretty much automatically. You won't see reports till I think usually like the next day. But again, cool thing to know, especially good for clients, right? If you're making a site for them, you can tell them, hey, I can set up Google Analytics so you can see how many hits it's getting, who is visiting it, how many times, how long they're on, and then that just starts helping you form strategies on how you can make people stay longer and interact with your stuff, and you can see what they're interacting with and all that. But you know, this service just blows my mind. It's, I don't know, it's just Google. It's how they're
Google being Google.
Yeah, giving away amazing stuff at the sacrifice of our privacy and our users' privacy. And whether you're okay with that, I don't know. Oh,
All that G tag, config, UA, that's unique to your account, correct?
yeah, everyone will have this. Nope, up to that, right? But this is your individual UA ID.
In the script.
Yep, and then the script, everyone would have this except for that is yours. So
why is my meta name coming up weird?
make sure you got all closing quotes and such.
Right there. Yeah.
Got it. But yeah, this is basically, you know, it embeds the Google Analytics script, and then it uses all these commands that basically goes out there and grabs all that information from the user's browser. Because with JavaScript, you can go in and say, you know, like what browser are they using, what operating system. I mean, all this stuff was accessible before. It's just Google Analytics made it open to the layman person, right? Just us mere peons. And so now we can use that to track all this stuff. It's nuts. Okay. Alrighty. So like I said, let's go back here. Go back to week 7. I'm going to be showing you how to create this type of layout. Now, again, I can't control what you do, but I would recommend that you just follow along with me. Do it with me. Make sure you understand how I set this to be here, how I set this to be here, how I set this to be across the whole page, and so forth. Because once you understand CS Grids, it's really simple. It's one of those things where it's like, man, I thought it was going to be a lot crazier, but once I finally got in there and dug around in it, I'm like, okay, this is really powerful. And it's actually there it goes. Okay, I think we're back up. So you got to take a look at this and say, all right, if I was to create an HTML table, how would I do this with this? Well, there'd probably be 2 columns, because there'd be a column here, okay, and then there'd be a column here. So this would be a column, you know, basically it'd be like in the middle here. There'd be a column here and a column here. Well, how many rows would there be? Well, probably 3, because this would be a row. This big, huge area here would be a row, and then this would be a row. Now, if you wanted to go a little bit crazier, you could say, okay, row here, row here, row here, row here, row here, row here, and row here. But we really don't need to do that because we can do spacing in between and things like that. But you got to start thinking about, okay, how would I set this up? And if I come down here and I took a look at, like, say this one, well, I'm now kind of in a 3-column type layout. I got a column here, I have a column here, and I have a column here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and like 5 rows. So a row here, row here, row here, here, and there. So whatever type of layout you're going with, you need to start thinking about, okay, how can I divide this up into columns and rows? This one, I don't know, 2 columns. You got a column here, and then maybe 1, 2, 3 rows, something like that. Okay, so it probably, I'm not forcing you to do this, but it would behoove you to create a little sketch to get an idea of what you want it to look like. Here, we probably have 4 columns, right? Column here, column here, column here, column here, and then 3 rows. 1, 2, 3, well, I guess 4 rows, because there's a row down here. So that's the first question you got to ask yourself is, all right, how many columns and how many rows am I going to have on this? So here I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 rows and 2 columns. And I need to start kind of throwing those out inside the body. So I'm going to have a class or a div here, and I'm going to call it container. I'm going to set up all the grids and such. So this is going to hold the whole website. Okay, and then basically I just need a div for everything I'm going to contain here. So I need a div up here for the logo. I need a div up here for the navigation bar. I need a div for this big, huge gallery or whatever the heck's going to be here. I need a div for this content, and I need a div for this content. So I'm going to start throwing that in there. So div class equals logo. Div class equals nav for navbar. Okay, and I don't know what I'm going to have here, but I guess for now I'll just have a big image in there. So I'll say div class equals image. And then I have 2 boxes down here. So I'm just calling mine box 1. If I was actually doing this for real, I'd probably want to give it a class that makes sense, because maybe in this box I would have contact information. So I would say class equals contact or something. You know, you're going to want to have your classes named something that makes sense of what kind of content you're going to have inside of there. Okay, and that's it for the HTML anyways. The HTML side is going to be pretty bare. The heavy lifting's done on the CSS side. So now, because this is a skeleton layout, I'm just going to put text in here like logo, so I can make sure that I'm moving the right ones around. But again, take your layout, figure out how many rows and how many columns, and then figure out how many divs. That was the third thing that I kind of forgot to mention, is you need to start figuring out, okay, how many divs am I going to need for this? Because the way you got to do all this pre-planning first, because the way CSS Grids works is you have to, right up at the beginning, you have to declare how many rows you're going to be using and how many columns. So all of this pre-planning is pretty much necessary, and you should be doing it this way anyways. And then the cool thing is it's pretty simple to change things out later if you need to.
Should I make a div for my background if I want it to be an image?
No.
Okay.
You don't need to do that. Just style the body, and you can put it in that way. Well, I guess you could put it. You could put it in container if you wanted to.
You wanted it to be like in a frame, I guess, like
Mhm.
in like negative background, you know.
So like this is my website right now. Like I'm gonna keep this like photo in the background, but the background, I think I just set the background as a photo.
Yeah, and that's what I would keep doing.
Okay.
Just probably just style the body and just have
I'm
it
pretty
be.
sure that's what I did.
Yeah. All right, so now we need a CSS file, so I'm going to create a new one here, click and drag it down here to write, and save it out. Then save it in my grids folder, bam. And then I need to link it. Okay, now just I'm going to kind of warn you up front. I'm going to throw a lot of extra stuff in here. There's a bunch of different ways you can define these grids, and I'm going to show you all the different ways, and so you can kind of start to decide which one you like better and which one makes the most sense to you. And what I mean is there's a bunch of different ways to say, okay, hey, column right here, I need you to span across 2 columns here, kind of like we did in HTML tables, if you remember that. And there's other ways to say, all right, you only be in the first column, you only be in the second column, you only be in the first column, you be in the second column, you be in the second row. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to declare those, and some of them, to be honest, don't make a lot of sense to me, but it's just how it works.
We have columns and rows, correct?
Yep, and that's what we got to define here. All right, moving this over, scroll down a little bit. Okay. So first thing I want to do is style up the body, and I'm going to just do the universal reset here. Oops, padding and margin. If you're not sure what that is, like if I were to throw, oh wait, I need to run this. Well, actually, I think you can see what this does. So if you see there's a little bit of space up here, a little bit of space over here right now. When I throw in that reset, it gets rid of all that space that's there by default.
That would have been so useful to know right off the bat.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That is super helpful.
Yeah, because if you don't do that and you have a background image or something, you'll have this little white line up there at the top.
Going in and doing it in the divs.
Were you positioning it up a little bit?
Doing the padding and margin 0 in the divs.
Oh, okay.
But doing it body is much easier because then everything's automatically
Yep.
like that. I like that a lot better.
Just cascades down to everything.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right, so universal reset. Now remember, you can do, I would really recommend that you do a lot of comments here when we start getting into the grid stuff, because it's easy, it's cool, but when you first start with it, it does get a little weird. So and like I said, some of the stuff doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I would recommend putting in comments just to help you remember, okay, this is doing this type stuff. So I just threw in comments there, universal reset. Okay, so I'm going to style out container. All right, and I need to say display grid. This is kind of like what turns the key to the car. You know, like this is us turning on grids to our website. This is initializing it. It's saying, all right, browser, we're going to be using CSS grids to position everything. Okay, and it needs to know, I have to set up the template for the columns. So this is where I define how many columns are going to be in the page and how wide they're going to be.
The columns are the vertical ones,
Yep,
right?
columns are up and down. Yep, think of just columns like Greek columns on the Greek structures and such. It's just the columns going up and down. Or the columns on the White House or whatever. So now this is where I need to define how many columns and how big they're going to be. Well, if I take a look at what I'm trying to do here, well, it's basically right in the middle. So I'm going to say, okay, they're going to be 2 columns and they're both going to be 50% wide. So with 2 numbers, I'm defining, okay, there's 2 columns. The first one on the left is going to be 50%. The second one on the right is going to be 50% as well. Now this is if I'm going like full page layout here. Yours may be a little bit different.
So what if I want 3 columns?
Then you would have 3 numbers in there and you would have to say how big they're going to be.
So I just divide 100 by 3.
Yep, so you could say 33, 33, 33.
Okay.
And that's going to give you, what, 1% leeway. So if you really wanted to be like right on there, 33.3, 33.3, 33.3.
So I should do 33.33.
Yeah, I would. And if it screws up anything, you can always go in there and mess with it.
Okay, cool.
But it shouldn't. So this is the beauty of CSS Grids too, is because it's very friendly with this responsive design, because you can throw percentages in here and such. All right, so now I got to go back here and go, okay, so I got my 2 columns defined. Now I got 3 rows that I'm going to put in here. So I need to define that as well. So grid template rows. And it's the same thing. But I can't really and don't really want to do percentages here. I want to just do pixel values. So I've already kind of went up there and played around with this. I know that I want the top row to be 80 pixels tall. So this row right here is going to be 80 pixels tall. The next one's going to be 400 pixels tall. And then the third one's going to be 300. So 80 pixels here, 400 tall here, 300 tall there is what I'm defining.
Do you want us to do the same thing, or should we do our own?
You can do whatever you want. If you feel like you can go through this and kind of do your own thing as we go, great. But also, you know, I don't know, it's up to you. Because if anything, if you go through this with me, you'll have a set layout, and then you'll be able to refer to it back and forth as you're creating yours. Because, you know, all these concepts, it can carry over to any type of layout you want to do. All right, so if we take a look at what we have now, cool. It's kind of doing what I want. So it did the 2 columns. All right, we're back again, I think. I don't know. Anyway, so box 1 needs to be down here where box 2 is, and box 2 needs to be over here. And that's where we're going to start. We have to tell the image div to span across, and we got to do all kinds of different things here. But right now, though, it's giving me the 3 rows, and it's giving me the 2 columns, and that's what I wanted. So happy days. Now there's a couple other things you can do. If I don't want these to be right directly up against each other, I can say grid column gap. And that's going to, and if I go like 20 pixels here, that's going to put 20 pixels of padding in between each column. And you'll see this more when we start applying colors and such. And I'm going to do a row gap as well. Yeah, can't really see it now because everything's white, but once I'm going to start putting colors inside of each of these sections, and you'll start to be able to see that. So this container div is just that. It's containing everything, but it's setting up your template. It's setting up how many columns and how many rows you're going to use. And the beauty here is if you're going through and you're like, you know what, I need another row. Okay, well, you just come in here, 200 pixels, boom, there you go. You have another row that's 200 pixels tall. Like, it's really easy to just kind of manipulate things and add things and change things. And then you'll see when we get to the responsive side of it, how pretty easy it is too. All right, so now I'm just going to start going through section by section and telling them what to do. So logo. So this is where I need to start telling it, okay, what row should this start on, and what column should it start on, and what row and column should it end on. So the first way to do this is grid column start, and it's going to start on the first column. And then grid column end. Okay, now in a perfect world, which this definitely is not, I would just say 1 here, right? Because it's starting on 1 and ending on 1. Well, no. Alas, it is not a perfect world. You have to put in 2. And what that's actually saying is start on the first column, end on the first column. For some reason, the end values are always one higher than they should be. Why? No idea. So end value is actually 1. Well, I guess that's really enough to say. We could just say end values are always 1 above what they actually are. Something like that. So this is telling logo to start on the first column and end on the first column. In other words, just stick your butt right on the first column. Don't go anywhere. Now, if I were to say column end 3, well, just moved it over. Moved it over all the way. It's now 100% wide, and nav and image just automatically just shift down. But I don't want that.
And that's if you want it to go across both columns.
Yep, both columns. So if you remember back to the beginning, or the HTML tables, remember we had call span 2. This is kind of doing the same thing. It's saying span across the 2 columns. But you have a lot more control now. You can say, all right, start on 1, end on 2, or end on 3, or end on 4, depending on what's set up here.
Okay.
Okay, and then we need to do the same thing with rows. So grid row start. It's going to start on the first row. Grid row end. And same thing, it's going to end on the first row. Now this isn't changing anything because that's what it was doing to begin with. And to be honest, looking at this, I'm kind of like, I don't even know if we need to define this for logo. I think really all we would need to do is define image to go across. But that's okay because, you know, we're first starting out and you have to know this column start and column end and row start and row end stuff. Okay, and just so we can see the space that it's taking up right now, I'm going to throw a background color on here. It's just some random color there. Okay, and now, well, not yet, but we can almost start to see that gap that we had in there. Okay, but that's all we're going to do for logo. And then, of course, you know, if we need to change fonts and stuff that's inside a logo, just inside a logo, you would apply the font and the color and all that kind of stuff. All right, so the next one's nav. So now we need to think what nav needs to do. Okay, well, navigation needs to be in the second column, but it needs to be in the first row. So we define that. So grid column start 2, because it's going to be in the second column. Grid column end 3, because we're telling it to end in the second column. And same thing here. So grid row start. Well, we know it's going to be in the first row. And it ends in the first row. Nothing happened, didn't move anywhere, but now we've established with the code exactly where we want it to go. We're not just letting it happen by just happening through the code here. All right, so I'm going to give this a background color too. Bisque. Okay, now we can see that 20 pixel gap. Where up here we said grid row gap of 20, it's putting it in there. So you may or may not want that. Just showing you that, hey, you can do that if you want. All right, so now we're going to mess with image. So there's a shorthand way of doing this. And you're probably going to be like, what the crap, why didn't you show me this at the beginning? Well, it's just because I'm evil. Okay, so we're going to say grid row But we're not going to say start or end or anything that. We're just going to define all of that in one line. Where the first value that we put in is where we want it to start. Wait, am I doing? Okay, so this is the row. I'm going to do column first because that's what I've been doing. So this image, I want it to be in both columns. I want it to span across both. So the way you can do this in one line is you say the beginning column, okay, and then you separate them by a slash. And I'm going to say span 2. So this says image, you start on column 1 and you span across 2 columns. So it has this span keyword that it understands. And this is how you can, and this to me makes a little more sense than telling it to end one higher than you actually want it to.
Yeah.
This is here, you're like, start on column 1 and span across 2 columns. I mean, that just makes a lot more sense to me. And we're going to do the same thing with the row. I can say grid row. I want it to start on the second row. And I'm just going to have it span across 1. In other words, it's going to stay on the second row and the second row only.
So if I wanted to start in the second and in the third, I'd say grid column 2 backslash span 3.
Span, you want it to span across 2 columns?
I want it to only be on 1, so I just do span 2.
How many columns do you have total?
3.
3? Okay,
I
and
want
we're,
it to be just the middle column.
so it'd be grid column 2 span 1.
Okay.
Because span 1 just says don't go across any
So
columns.
Span is identifying how far it goes.
Yep, how many columns
Got it.
it goes into. Yep.
Okay.
So I like this obviously because I mean this is the same thing as grid column start 1, grid column end 3, you know, and so forth. So I mean, instead of writing out 4 freaking lines, right, you're only doing 2, and to me it's easier to understand. But the reason why I'm showing you the other way is because I want you to know these different ways. So if you stumble across them, you can go, oh yeah, at least you know what it's doing. Okay, and I'm going to give this a background color as well. And these colors I'm just picking are just random. I'm throwing in the colors so I can actually see what's going on. And see how much space they're taking up. And I mean, as you can see, we're creating the skeleton layout right now, is what we're doing here.
This is really cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And then
Helps a lot.
when we get into the responsive stuff, that's what I like too, because I mean, you can already start to think how you would do that, right? You would set up another grid and you would just say 1 column with however many rows you need, and that's it. Like it's cool. Where
So,
before,
what if I want 2 divs to be in the same row and column?
now or in the mobile view?
In this one.
You want to, okay, say that again, because I was thinking mobile view. Say that again.
So I want 2 divs. I want 2 buttons to be in one row and column together.
Then probably what you could do is just put the buttons in one of the divs and then position them from within inside the div.
So I make 1 div for both buttons.
Mm-hmm. And just put both buttons in that one div.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. Because we're going to be covering mainly the layout stuff here, but you know, you're still going to have to put content in these divs. And so the cool thing is once you're just going to have divs inside of divs, and then you're positioning those divs from within inside those divs that were positioned with the grids. But we can cover that a little bit when we get to the end here. All right, so now it's doing what we want. Logo, nav, image, going all the way across. Box 1 and box 2 are where we want it. And just because I'm wondering, I'm going to get rid of logo and nav. Yeah, see, I mean, I didn't even style logo and nav, and logo and nav are doing what I want. Image is doing what I want. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not so experienced with grids to know if not defining these would screw anything up. But I think, you know, when in doubt, do it anyways. Just it establishes exactly where you want stuff to go. Okay. So now we just have box 1 and box 2. Okay, I'm going to keep going with the shorthand here. So grid column. So box 1 is going to be in the first column, ends in the first column. So you can do this as well. You can do it without span. This is just going back to this method here. So I'm saying grid column start is 1 and grid column end is 2. It's just saying both of those lines in one line. It's a lot more shorthanded way of that. And then of course grid row. What is it going to be? 3, 4, I think. Yeah, so 1. If it's the third row down, and I want it to stay in the third row. So 3, 4. Okay, and remember this is the same as grid column start 1, grid column end 2, grid row start 3, grid row end 4. It's just the shorthand way of doing it, which I personally like way more.
So it's shorthanded.
Yeah. Well, kind of, yeah. All right, and then I'm going to throw in a background color for this one too. There we go. But I don't know, if I had to pick one, I'd probably still stick with the span. Well, I don't know, now that I've done it enough, the one above where it actually is supposed to be starting to make sense. It's just, to me, this is the most English friendly. You know, start on the first column, span 2, go across 2. I don't know. It kind of depends on what you want. Okay, in box 2. Okay. We'll do that in a minute. So grid column, it's going to be the second one. It's going to stay in the second one. Grid row, third row, stays in the third one. Nothing really is going to move. That's okay. We're at least establishing where everything needs to go. And there we go.
This makes it like 1,000 times easier.
Yeah, especially coming from intro, right? Where you were positioning everything absolutely and all that.
Yeah.
Hello. Goodbye.
I know you're coding me left.
I know.
Do it.
It's like, oh, geez. It's too scary. Okay, so there's my skeleton layout. So for this week's assignment, right, this is what I would turn in. This is all it needs to look like. It doesn't have to have anything in it. It's just kind of defining what goes where. Okay, and then I would upload this into FileZilla and just post it. Now, if your other pages and subpages and stuff look a little different, that's okay. The point of this assignment is just to get started with CSS grids, to get an idea of how they work, to kind of mess with it, establish it, get it mastered enough to where you can make any layout you want now, which is awesome, right? And then once you have that down and solidified, then you upload it. Just kidding though, we're not done yet. But my point is though, is this is going to be kind of what it looks like, because we still need to do the mobile version. Oh, hold on. Javier appeared. There we go. Okay, so let's put these in media queries. So remember, it's at media. Oh, you know what? We don't really need to define this one in a media query because this is just what it's going to do all the time. So I'm only going to do it for this. So max width. I'm going to go 700 pixels just so I can see it. So remember, the maxed width that this will show in is 700 pixels is what that's saying. So once this is over 600 or 700 pixels, these styles will not be applied and these will. So that's what the max width is saying there. It still takes me a while to kind of wrap my head around exactly what that's saying. I mean, obviously I know what it's saying, but to be able to like write it from memory and stuff, it's just the max width that this can be is 700 pixels to apply these styles. So like we did last week, I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in there. And then I'm just going to start manipulating it as needed to where it'll function the way I want it to. Okay, I'm going to tab these over though. Okay, so we'll just kind of go one by one. So I need to think about what I want it to do. So I go, okay, well, I probably want the logo to be on top. And then I'm going to want the navigation to be right underneath it, then the image, then box 1 and box 2. And they're all just going to stack. So that means I'm going to have one column with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So I need to set that up. So do I still want the universal reset to happen in my mobile view? Yes, I do. Okay, so I don't need to do anything with this. Container, yep, this needs to be a little bit different. Okay, so my template columns isn't going to be 50-50 anymore. I'm not going to have 2 columns. I'm only going to have 1. So I could say 100, I could say 90, I could say 95. I don't know. I'm going to play with 95 for now, and we'll see what that looks like. So that's telling it when I'm in the mobile view, I'm going to have 1 column because there's only 1 number. It's going to be 95% width of the browser window. Okay, now this is where it gets not too hard, but a little more. You got to plan a little bit. So the template rows, remember I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. And I'm not really sure how tall I want these to be. But I'll kind of guess for now. So the first one's the logo. So the logo, yeah, maybe 50 pixels. Navigation bar, we'll give it 20. Okay, the big image in there, I'll probably, I don't know, maybe 100. Okay, and then box 1 and box 2 I want to be the same. I'll have them be 80-80. So this is the logo. That's how tall that box is going to be. That's the navigation bar. That's the image. That's box 1, and that's box 2. And the gaps, I don't need a column gap, so that can go away. I only have 1 column. Row gap, yeah, I probably am going to want a gap there. I'll probably maybe make it like 5 pixels. 5 to 10. Kind of tab these over here. All right, so logo. We don't really need column starts and column ends because there's only 1 column. So just get rid of that. You know what? I don't think I really need any of these except for like the background colors. Where the heck do I have my notes? Oh, I forgot about this. Totally forgot about that. Oh, there's another way. Oh yeah, this is cool. I forgot. I don't know if I like that though. Well, I'll show you anyways. So you can do it this way, or there is another way, which I do want to show you, is there's a repeat method where you can say repeat 5 and do auto width. And here I could say columns auto, and that's going to allow the browser to just kind of decide, but to be honest, it's going to be like full screen. So what this is saying is create 5 rows. So repeat a row 5 times. So in other words, create 5 rows and let the browser decide how tall they want to be. Now that's obviously a problem because the logo needs to be taller than the navigation and they're all going to be different heights. Well, we can come in here and just say, we can define the heights here. So I don't know which way is better. It's up to you to decide. Whatever makes the most sense to you in whatever way you would want to do it. Okay, but I don't need any of these anymore. All I really need to do now is just define the height. So navigation was 20. Image. I think we had that as go like 90, I guess. Probably make the height a little smaller for the logo.
So what you're doing right now is you're matching those to what you identified in the container?
Yeah, what I'm doing is the mobile view. So I decided how I wanted this to be on the mobile view. Well, they're all going to stack on top of each other, so I only need one column. And then I need to decide basically what order I wanted them in. Logo is going to be first, then navigation, then image, then the 2 boxes. So that means I needed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So that's where I have this repeat 5. I'm creating a row for each one of those. There's one other cool thing I'm going to show you when we're done here, but we'll get there. So I can get rid of all this. So the height for box 1 is going to be, I don't know, 50-ish. Probably make the image a little smaller too. But it's not. I think it's because it's cascading through. It's taking what this has done and it's not changing it. Okay, so then, all right, so I'm going to have to show you what I'm going to show you to actually get this to work. So if you're wondering, it's like it's doing exactly what it was doing before, right? So that means all of this stuff, the grid columns, span and start and ends and all this kind of stuff, it's sticking through, it's staying through. It's not changing because I've set it up here and I haven't reset it here. I haven't told it to do anything different.
So that would mean if you did last week.
Yeah.
Tell it.
Yep, so we basically have to override what's been defined here, and that's what we're going to do, this thing that I'm going to show you here next. See, it's interesting. Well, what if I just said 100% here? Okay, that kind of did it. Oh, nope. Nope. It took that first column. Okay, so it took the first column and made it 100%, but it still thinks that other column is there. So it throws it out over here. Okay, that's fine, because we'll still be able to fix it. So we're going to do a thing that's called grid template areas, which I personally thought was amazing. But last quarter when I showed it, they all were just like, meh. I'm like, all right, guys, maybe I'm just nerdy. I think it's cool, but I didn't get a standing ovation last quarter. I don't know why, but so we got grid template areas. So what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to give each one of these divs like a name. And then we can, well, I guess, yeah, we'll want to do that first. So I'll come here and I'll say, this is going to be grid area logo. Okay, and I'm going to go through each one of these divs and give them a grid area. So I'm just copying and pasting here. So logos is going to be logos, navs is going to be navs. It doesn't, they can conflict. The class and the grid area can be the same. Because this is completely different what I'm doing here. So box 1 and then box 2. And doing this in a mobile view is actually a really good idea, and you'll see why here in a minute. So when you give them all a grid area, you can then define what order they should display in. And that's what you do in the grid template areas. So I can say, now that I've given these all a grid area, I can say, okay, I want logo to show up first on top. Then I want navigation to show up underneath it. Okay, then I want image to show up. No commas or anything, just spaces in between all of these. And then I want box 1 to show up, and then I want box 2.
The second one we've had today.
Man, we are popular people.
People just don't know where they're going, I think.
It's funny, Chase was teaching a class, and this guy like randomly just walked in, like doing like eating chips, and he was just like, "Oh, can I use the computer?" And like Chase is like, "No, there's a class in here."
So Chase is very like, get the heck out type.
Yeah. Quarterman.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess I'm too much of a doormat, because like when students do that, I'm usually like, yeah, come in, just shut your mouth and don't.
Play your room, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
Chase
exactly.
Is just like, no one.
But I guess if the kid's like, can I come in, you know, and he's chomping on chips and stuff, I'd be like, dude, no.
You've
Like,
already been disruptive.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like he just like busted in, and like someone was doing a presentation, and Chase was just like, no.
But I mean, but I've had students come in and they're like all hunched over and they're like, can I come in and just, and I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever, just.
As long as you don't like disrupt my class.
Yeah.
Just the way the guy came in, I guess Chase was just like, yo, he came in here kind of rude, so no.
During a presentation, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. Okay, so now it's doing what we want. Now, here's the power of the template areas. So now maybe one day, you know, I update box 1 and box 2, and maybe I'm like, you know what, I really need box 2 to be on top of box 1. So all I got to do is change the order here. So I say box 2 and then box 1, save it, and then boom. So it's just, now that you've defined these areas, you can easily order them and stack them. And that I thought was amazing. I thought it was really, really cool.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So now I can see here, I'm like, I know that, okay, my nav is, wait, yes, yes, thank you.
It makes it so much easier, like,
Yeah,
it really does.
gives you a lot more like modular control over your site and what goes where, which is really cool. So, you know, my nav was way too small, so I upped it up, you know, 40 pixels. That looks pretty good. I mean, so now you can start playing around. The logo is probably too dang small, actually. So, right now I can start playing with the heights and get them to about how big I want them to be. So this is what's due next week. Again, get it done as soon as you can so you can start on your site. But I need a skeleton layout that looks like this. Well, looks like how you want it to look on a PC view that is responsive.
We need that
Okay.
for the whole website, all the pages.
Every page needs to be responsive, yes.
And that is due
Week 11.
week. Awesome.
Now, the skeleton thing is due next week, but obviously the project due week 11. We're not presenting or anything, so just get it done. Get the
What week is it this week?
week 8.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're a week behind because of that Tuesday where everyone was afraid to go outside.
Basically, the final is 3 weeks.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
About a month or so, but
Not
yeah.
bad. Very doable.
All right, so the last thing I want to show, and then we'll call it good, is, well, how do you start putting stuff in here, right? I mean, I know you get it, but how, you know, if I wanted text to be in box 1, well, how do I start positioning it from within that div? So, I don't know, I'm just going to go out and grab a picture, see what comes up.
Like that, the owl with the hat.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. That horse mask, I don't know why, just kills me. Oh, I laugh my head off every time I see it. Just people running around the streets and stuff. So, sure, let's throw that in there. Boom.
I was going with the horse.
I mean, I don't know why I laughed so hard, but there was a YouTube video of a guy shirtless out in the rain with a horse mask on, and this lady's sitting there doing the news, and she's like looking back at him, and he's like, yeah, and he just runs off.
It's even funnier when you see like a horse and then like they also have like the unicorn one.
I have not. Oh, dude, there's a zombie one.
Video of one. He like grabs a toothbrush and he like brushes his teeth, but it's like the horse mask's teeth, so it's like flopping all over the place because it's a rubber mask.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Oh, the things that we find funny. All right, so I'll just grab that mask. I don't know why. Maybe we just like it for some reason. So sure, we'll grab this one. So CSS Grids, I'll just call this horse mask. All right, so let's say I want it down here in box 1. I'm not going to, but I should throw this in Photoshop and shrink it down just because it's pretty big right now. So I could do a couple things, right? I could throw it in as the background image of the div, position it around that way. So I'll show you that first. So box 1, we could say background. Oh, I'm just going to say background. And the URL is going to be the horse mask. And I'm going to say no repeat because I don't want it to repeat. I just want it to show up once. Save it. See what this looks like. Okay. Why are you not working? Why the heck would that not be working? Oh, it might be because it's so big. Well, we'll see in a minute. Sorry, holy frick, it was something stupid. I'm doing it in the mobile view, so I'm in the mobile styles. So let me get rid of that. So of course, that would have only shown up if I were to shrink it down. Okay. So come up here. Then we'll throw in here, so box 1. Background, horse mask, no repeat. Okay, there he is. He's massively huge, so I should take this into Photoshop and shrink him down. But I'm going to do it with the code, which would not lower the file size. What is this? So, okay, perfect square, perfect. So 90 by 90. Yeah, you can be a little bit bigger. Okay, so there he is. And then I want to position him kind of in the middle of that div. Well, I just background dash position. Say like 40 pixels. I'm pretty sure that's from the top.
So you literally just do it like a normal div.
Yeah.
But it just stays in that box.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. And the cool thing is, whatever that box does in the grid system, it'll just follow it. Okay, so I put them in there. Maybe I want to move them over a little bit. So this is the left value, and 80 is the top value. So I put him in. Now he's a background image, so if I put text in there, it will just go on top of him. But anyway, so we got that. then, or I could just start throwing divs inside of here and divs inside of divs.
Like
So
if I were to make a button, I would position it like that image.
yeah, so if I created a button here, are you talking like input button or like a picture button?
Like a picture that was a button that takes you to a page.
Well, we can do that. So let's go into box 2 here. Hit enter a couple times. So this is going to be inside of box 2. So I'm actually just going to do a button. And we'll say hi. Okay, there it is. I want to position it. So come in here. Box, well, I'll give it a class. So we'll say class equals hi. Class of hi. Position absolute. Top whatever. Left whatever. So this is taking us back to the basic days. Okay, now why did it do that? Let's see if you guys remember.
It's doing it from.
Why did it break out of box 2 and come up here?
Because you didn't say it's in box 2.
Oh, it is in box 2.
It's position absolute.
So absolute will break it out of the div it's in unless the div it's in is positioned.
Yes.
So if I go to box 2,
Say absolute.
I don't know what absolute would do. I think that might blow it up too. If not, we'll see. Yeah, blows up box 2. So I think if I just say relative, it'll work fine. Relative just tells it to stay where it's at in the code and not move unless I tell it to. So there we go. Now another way around that is you could say, well, instead of using absolute here, you could say relative. And then it won't matter if this is positioned or not. But to be honest, you probably want to keep with absolute because when you start putting more things in here, it gets a little more messy. But the cool thing about grids is now you just have all of these modular little sections, areas that you play around with, and it keeps just keeps everything packaged better and easier and just gives you a little more control. And then also the power here is it just makes it real easy to do the responsive stuff as well. So really, if it's me and if it was me and it's not, if it was me, I would get the PC view done because then you have styles and classes for everything, and then you just copy and paste inside of the media query here, copy and paste in here, and then you just go in there and start manipulating numbers to make it fit and match well on the mobile view. And if you want to use these template areas, great, go for it. You don't have to, but you can.
I like that though.
I think it's awesome.
Makes it easier to change it in the future.
Yep, exactly. If you need to rearrange things, it's very easy.
Especially for a portfolio, like artwork.
Yep. Okay, and then another thing you may want to know, like if you want to center things inside of divs, like a good way of doing that. If I wanted to maybe center the logo inside of this div, I'd come up here to logo, and you just do text align center. That aligns everything inside of the div to the center. Text, images, everything. It makes it sound like it just aligns text, but it does more than just text and images. It does everything.
It's so weird.
It's just one of those weird things about stuff.
Yeah.
Now, and then also when you want to start doing these full page layouts and stuff, I would, I could just get rid of all these background colors, and now they don't even know that there's a structure to it. So it would all be white with just things positioned where I want them, and it just kind of goes from there. So anyways, I think that's about it. Let me double check. Analytics, good. We got the meta. Favicon, I think we already went over, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you should be able to look back on your notes for that. It's just that link tag link rel equals shortcut icon, and then the href of the PNG.
And we'll want to make those for each page, right?
Yeah, make sure that the link for the favicons is in there for all of them.
And what about the Google Analytics? Like, if we're gonna have a 3-page website, do we have to make one of those for each page?
Yep, this should be on every page.
That same one.
Yep, this script,
Okay.
these 2 script tags, yep, should be on every page at the top of the head.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Well, that's all I have. Any questions, let me know. You got this video here that you can use to review it.
Can you scroll back down to the code for the button?
The button. Oh, in the HTML?
And then CS.
Oh, and I do want to say with the high stuff, oh wait, code for the button was right here. So you can actually style these buttons too, which I think is kind of cool. So you can say, yeah, like border none, border radius 10, background color. I mean, it's kind of cool. You can take these normal boring buttons and actually make them start to look and function like buttons. Oh, we need a width, so I'd throw some padding in there. That's huge. But anyways, you can start styling these normal default buttons to actually look and function like styled buttons, and they actually look a lot cooler. You can change the font, you can change the font color, all that stuff. But anyways, I'm going to stop the recording now. Should be up there pretty soon.